Okay, everyone, welcome to this episode of Reiki Radio. We have a beautiful guest with us today, Kierrah Flipping of CoreEmpowerment.org. I can't tell you how excited I am about this interview, and everyone will find out why. But Kierrah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be talking with you today. You're one of my favorite podcasts. I'm so excited
Good.
to be with you today.
No, that means a lot. I'm so thankful to hear that. And I gave a little bit of a teaser, but I do have to say your work and the focus of your work is something that is on the minds of a lot of people that I've even met personally. So I just want to let everyone know that we are going to talk today about Reiki and talk therapy. Kierrah is a therapist, but also a Reiki master teacher. So before we get into the meat of it, I just want to know if you can share with us a bit of how did this happen? Did you start out as a therapist? What's your story?
Yeah, so I started in the field in 2011. That's when I first got out there, first got my feet wet in the mental health field. And then my work just progressed over the years, starting with doing community-based work, eventually going into the school system. And then after that, transitioning into outpatient treatment. And I noticed along my journey, I really started to get a little frustrated with myself and started just second guessing myself and my ability to be a good therapist, because I was judging my therapeutic skills based off of the results that my clients were reporting. And throughout my journey as a therapist, I just continued to see clients show back up to their appointments with the same thing, presenting the same way, same issues, no matter what we talked about during session, no matter what homework I gave. They were just coming back to their appointments pretty much the same. And I started to just get very, very frustrated again with just myself, and just started to second guess myself. Am I a good therapist? Can I really do this? Am I applying these interventions correctly? Am I presenting the modality correctly? So I just started to get a little down on myself, and I started to share some of that with my dad, who is a big advocate for Reiki. And he always mentioned Reiki to me, but I really didn't know what it was. So I started to do my own personal research on Reiki. And he always commended me for doing this work, but he always instilled in me, you are going to have to offer your clients something else outside of talk therapy. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, whatever. Like, I got my master's in this. I know what I'm doing. Sigmund Freud said that. Carl Jung said that. I know what I'm doing. But I later found that he was right. I needed to offer my clients something else other than talk therapy. So I started to research Reiki, and it sounded cool. And I went and took the classes, and I got certified in level 1. And after level 1, I started just practicing Reiki for myself and for my family and my friends. And I was like, okay, like, this feels good. I'm enjoying this. Let me take level 2. Let me start offering it to my clients. So that's a little snippet of my journey, from therapy only to therapy and Reiki.
Yes, and I can't wait to go even more into this practice that you've developed
Yes.
and the space that you hold. But I have to ask you this before we get there. So once you transitioned from just talk therapy and started doing Reiki training, what was the personal experience with that? What did you start to recognize in the practice of Reiki, even just in the self-work that you were doing?
Absolutely. Just personally, before I even started offering Reiki to clients, just using it for myself, I started to notice that I was becoming more organized just in my personal space, within the work that I was doing, more organized, more grounded, more geared to rituals, which is again like organization, having that morning routine. And I also noticed, again, before even offering Reiki to my clients, I felt more connected to them in session. We're all human, and I'm sure all therapists can relate. Like, if you say this never happened to you, you're probably not telling the truth. But to be in session with the client and kind of have your mind wander, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, when I leave here, I got to go get groceries, and da da da. Like, your mind sort of wanders. Like, we're all human, right? But once I started incorporating Reiki in my personal life, I was more present
Yes.
in my sessions with clients. I could feel their energy. I was more compassionate towards them, and nothing else that happened before their appointment mattered. Nothing else that I had to do after their appointment mattered. I am fully present with them in session. So that was like my first real experience. Like, wow, like I am more connected to my
Right.
clients, and I think my clients could feel that, just kind of based off their body language and feedback. Like they could feel that I was right there with them during their appointment.
That's a really interesting thing that you point out. And I know that you also offer Reiki now. And again, we'll get
Mhm.
into that. But I wanted to just highlight that how beautiful it is that this practice for yourself, like how it's supported you in holding space, even in the practice of talk therapy. So,
Absolutely.
just for people who may be therapists listening, or even people who aren't, maybe people who are in therapy, can you talk about what you've recognized as the benefit on the talk therapy side, the benefit on the energy work side, and how they are complementing each other?
Absolutely. So from the talk therapy side, like clients that are just mainly doing talk therapy, I think for them it's a good space to sort of vent, maybe get some things out that they haven't shared with family and friends, that they don't feel comfortable, or may, just kind of want somebody that's not in the situation
Right.
to kind of give them feedback and dialogue and things like that. That's sort of what people come to therapy for, is like, I don't want to tell anybody this, or I'm feeling this way and I don't know why. So it's good to really have somebody that's not in the situation to have that dialogue with you, give you
Right.
some feedback, and offer you some suggestions to better your situation or your symptoms. So that's the beauty of talk therapy. The beauty of energy work is that energetic release, the ability to really be grounded and present within yourself. Because
Hmm.
during your Reiki session, again, nothing else before the Reiki session matters, nothing else after the Reiki session matters. And it's your time to just be present with yourself. And I find that a lot of my clients don't grant themselves that opportunity.
Right.
Life is busy. We're going, 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 going. Even trying to rush to get to your therapy appointment is another task, right?
Right.
So just being able to have that time for a Reiki session to lie down and simply breathe. That's the only responsibility of the client doing Reiki, is just to breathe and relax and to give yourself that moment of self-care. So again, being able to energetically release some of those things that you have stored within yourself that you may not even know. You may say, oh, my neck is always tight, or I always have a headache, or oh, this lower back pain. And we're carrying all of these things in our bodies. So to be able to release those things during Reiki, I feel is an awesome benefit. And then to combine the two, right?
Right.
So
That's
that's
what,
like a double whammy. Like it's a win-win. You
no,
get to
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Absolutely. It's so exciting hearing you say this, because it really hits all the aspects of our like whole picture of healing
Absolutely.
and overall like total wellness, right? Because you
Mhm.
have this
Mhm.
component where you're allowing people to literally process whatever is going on for them mentally, emotionally, but then
Mhm.
also not leaving out that aspect of even the physical level of just letting yourself release tension, relax, and then of course the overall energetic shift that provides as well. So I have to ask
Absolutely.
you, because a lot of people who listen obviously practice energy work, and we all know that even in doing energy work, just like what you mentioned before, what's stored in the body may come to our conscious recognition. So
Mhm.
do you find, or have you noticed in your practice any difference in, say, clients who are just doing talk therapy versus ones who are doing both?
Absolutely. So what I have noticed, the clients that have combined both talk therapy and Reiki, they are reporting being less impulsive.
Mm.
So while they used to engage in impulsive behaviors, they're reporting being more in tune with themselves, doing some thought processing before an action. So
Right.
before I purchase this thing, let me really sit with self. Like I'm connected to this purchase because I know this purchase is an exchange of energy. So what is really going on here? Like, why am I purchasing this thing? Let me not be impulsive. Let me think about it. or before I engage in this relationship, or before I react or respond to someone that may have triggered me. Let me really sit with self. Let me take a moment. Let me separate myself from this environment. And
Right.
I'm noticing they're becoming more intuitive,
Yes.
and just more aware of the people and the spaces around them. So a lot of times in therapy, we offer our clients the idea of recognizing your triggers and trying to stay away from people, places, and things that contribute to your triggers. But if you're not really aware, like if you're just out here living and not really grounded and connected to your space, you
Yeah.
may not even know what people, places, and things
Right.
stir up a trigger. So just them reporting being more intuitive and more aware of the people, places, and things that contribute to their triggers. And then again, going back to the impulsive behaviors and impulsive thoughts and just impulsivity in
Yeah.
all.
You,
Um,
I had to tell you, this is like, I'm thinking of how in many ways we are starting to reframe what wellness looks like, right?
yes,
And
yes.
how earlier in this year I've had a couple of guests come on. One was Raven Keys talking about medical Reiki, and she does Reiki in surgeries. Then
Mm-hmm.
recently there were two other women who came on the same, bringing Reiki into hospitals. And now here you are doing this work of showing the benefit of Reiki in yet another space of wellness with the talk therapy. And I just think it's so inspiring, and it's fascinating, really, to see how people are using this practice that starts very much with the self, but
Mm-hmm.
integrating it in with what has been there for so long,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. So this is the part where I think uh, you're very unique in what you're doing, because I've personally not heard this before. I just want people to understand the nature of your work. So your
Mm-hmm.
clients have the opportunity to have talk therapy sessions and Reiki sessions, but they're not in the same session. So they could do one and then the other.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just talk about how that's structured?
Sure. So some clients will want to come in and have a Reiki session.
Mhm.
And then after their Reiki session, they may want some deeper dialogue around what sort of showed up during their Reiki session as it relates to some of their symptoms and their diagnosis. So then after the Reiki session, we will then transition into your typical talk therapy
Right.
session. And then some clients do it in reverse. They want to have talk therapy. They want to kind of verbally get those things out
Mhm.
before leaving, because it's one thing to talk about it and get it out, but where does that energy go? It's still stored within our body. So some people prefer to have the talk therapy, and then before going home, it's like, all right, everything we talked about, let's go ahead and clear all that out. Let's transition into a Reiki session. It is very standard that in therapy clients come weekly.
Mhm.
So what a lot of clients have started to do is do the opposite week. So 1 week therapy and then 1 week Reiki.
Ah, that's a, I'm sure, again, like I said, because I've worked with many therapists, and a lot of them have had that same feeling or knowing that there's something more I could be doing
Hmm.
to support people. And a lot of them have shown interest in doing energy work, but not knowing how. And I think it's because a lot of people had the thought of like, I can't bring Reiki into my therapy session.
Mhm, mhm.
And with what you've done, I'm very surprised that a lot of them haven't considered you can do both, but separately. It's
You
just
can.
exactly what you're doing. So this is where you are unique in your training portion. So
Yes.
you focus more on training therapists and
Yes.
doing Reiki training for therapists, rather than, the clients come for the service, but you're focusing on the therapist. So can you talk about how this idea came about and why that's your focus?
Sure. So when I started incorporating Reiki into my private practice, at that time, it was just me. I was the only therapist in my practice. I was a solo practice. And I started just a little soft opening. I said, I'm going to do Reiki Fridays. So I started promoting Reiki Fridays to all of my clients on social media. And that kind of got the buzz out, like, what the heck is Reiki? What is this? But because I had already built that rapport with my clients,
Mhm.
they trusted me. So they're like,
Right.
okay, Kierrah is talking about this thing. I trust her. Let me give it a try. So it started with just Fridays, and then it grew. really fast. At first I was nervous, like, maybe people won't take to this, maybe they'll think it's weird, so let me just start slow. And to my surprise, it blew up. Like, it was a bang. And clients were coming back for more sessions and telling friends and family. And then I started having clients that weren't therapy clients, they were just Reiki clients, because maybe they had a therapist somewhere else, but their therapist wasn't offering Reiki. So they kept their therapist and then came to me for Reiki, and it grew way beyond me, way beyond anything I ever could have imagined. So then I started offering Saturday and Sunday Reiki, and then more therapy clients started coming in because they were more interested in my practice because I was offering a holistic modality.
Mhm.
So then I said, okay, I need a larger office and I need to hire some more therapists to help me. And that's exactly what I did. So now we have 7 therapists. So I primarily do the Reiki portion. And then our waiting list just kept growing and growing and growing. And I personally do not like having a waiting list. I know
Mhm.
some people will like gloat over having a waiting list. I'm like, I don't like clients waiting. Like,
Yeah.
you are trying to get into our office for a particular service, but we're crowded at the moment and we cannot service you quick enough. So I said, you know what? Maybe I can start training other local therapists in Reiki so that other clients can feel the same way about other practices as well. So that's exactly what I did. So I sometimes get beat up about it, like, you're not offering Reiki to anybody else. Like, nope, just mental health professionals. So in some kind of form or fashion, you have to be serving the mental health population in some sort of way
Yes.
to be able to join my training. So maybe one day I'll open it up, but as for right now, like, that's really my niche. Like, I really, 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 I'm invested in empowering other mental health professionals in how they can offer Reiki to their clients as well. So currently that's the only group of people that I'm offering my Reiki trainings to.
Honey, there is nothing wrong with that. Let me tell you something. It's a beautiful thing when, because let's say, for example, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world because you understand their line of work. You can relate to what comes up for them. So, of course, it would make sense that you would create this space to help them understand how to integrate the two. So, I just want to point to that as well because you mentioned that a lot of times, even in your own experience, it's like, okay, so I'm doing the talk therapy. Maybe I know or feel something more can be done. Now what? So
Yes.
just so people really understand, and again, for the mental health professionals out there, what is your training about?
Okay. So I found myself after I received my Reiki certification in that space. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I'm certified in Reiki. Now what? I had no idea how to introduce it to clients. I had no idea how to break down defining Reiki in a way that my clients were understand. I didn't know how to market this thing.
Right.
I didn't know how to utilize my office space to accommodate a Reiki session, because remember, it was just me. It was me in a single box office. Like, that's the only space I had.
Right.
Um, so it was a lot of trial and error for me, and I didn't want other therapists to feel like, all right, I got this Reiki certification. Now what? It's too much. I don't feel like dealing with it. Out, fine. I'll just do therapy. So I pretty much developed this training off of all of my failures. So all of the ways I failed and all of the things that went right. And I said, you know what? I need to really put this thing together to empower other therapists. So, excuse me. So the first part that the therapists go through is just getting certified in Reiki. They
Mm-hmm.
come in, they get attuned in Reiki, they learn pretty much Reiki 101, the basics of Reiki, the hand positions, all of that great stuff. So,
Right.
and that's a day. So you come in for the day in office and you leave certified in Reiki. That's
Mm-hmm.
step one. And I had the experience of having therapists that were already trained in Reiki. So it's like, I'm trained in Reiki already. I just don't know what to do with this thing. Or therapists that were out of state.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is and I helped them match up with other Reiki practitioners that are in other states to get that certification. Because after the certification, we do a virtual training online. And it's a 4-week training that really goes into how to incorporate Reiki into your practice. So the first module talks about wrapping your mind around Reiki. So, excuse me, I'm getting over some bronchitis here. The
No
weather in Maryland
problem.
is like, eh.
I know all about that Maryland weather.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. So the first module talks about wrapping your mind around Reiki. So we explore the benefits and outcomes that Reiki has, specifically with the mental health population.
Yes.
We delve into that. So we scratch off everybody and just talk about exclusively how Reiki can benefit the mental health population.
Amazing.
And then we learn some language around how to empower our clients, and educate them about Reiki. We identify, particularly each therapist, who's your ideal client. So are you working with children? Are you working in the hospital? Are you working in an outpatient setting? Are you working with trauma victims? Like, who is your particular client that you are seeing in your practice? And once I know that, we can streamline how you can show that particular niche that you're working with, how Reiki can benefit them. So it's not so broad, like, oh,
Right.
Reiki heals everything. Reiki cures the world, right? And it's no, how can Reiki heal women suffering from trauma, right?
Right.
Or how can Reiki help adolescents dealing with ADHD in schools, right? So
Yes.
I want to identify who is your ideal population. Then we can really niche it down. Excuse me. So that's one. And then the second week we go into um, insurance and liability and how clients can use insurance benefits to cover Reiki sessions, which a lot of people aren't aware of. So we talk
Hmm.
about that. Um, we talk about your own personal self-care and how to keep yourself grounded and that sort of thing. So it's a whole shebang.
Right. No, this is so beautiful. It excites me to hear how, again, personal practice
Mm-hmm.
inspires people to then show up and share in very particular ways. And I love that it's being done in so many different arenas now. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing. And again, it's amazing watching this transformation of our overall system of wellness and what's being provided nowadays. So
Absolutely.
you kind of touched on this, but I just want to make sure people fully understand. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in the Maryland area,
Yes, I'm in Maryland.
in Maryland and state, but really what I was thinking is, we'll put the website so people can see exactly where you are, but
Yes,
you're in Maryland, and if people are local, they can come to you for talk therapy, for Reiki sessions, and if they are therapists, they can come in to do Reiki training with you. No matter
absolutely.
where people are located, if they are therapists, they can join your online training to understand how to then integrate Reiki into the talk therapy practice that they already have.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so I just want to ask this as well, for the people listening. Can they sign up for that training anytime, or is it you have certain dates that it starts online?
So I'm glad you asked that. So we have one coming up, the end of this month, the end of October, and that is probably, and everybody has been asking, but I'm like, that will probably be my last, I guess, live coaching. From there, it's going to be digital. I'm going to make it digital so anybody at any time can access it.
Right.
Because what I'm finding is when I'm running these cohorts, it sometimes doesn't match up with folks' schedule.
Right.
So they're like, okay, you're hosting it this time on Wednesdays at noon. You know, I can't make that time, but I really want to do it. Are you going to do this again? Are you offering this thing again? So I
Yeah.
want to make it easily accessible to everybody. So versus doing the live coaching, it's going to be the same material.
Right.
You're going to get the same that you would live, but you'll just be able to access it whenever you want. You can go back to it and review it, and I'll still offer those individual coaching calls because that's a part of the training as well. Once we're done with the virtual, once we've gone through the weeks of the coaching, after that, I set up 2 coaching calls with you just to kind of go over some questions. You know, you have all the materials, you know what to do, but questions come up, and I want to be able to be available to answer those. So even though it's going to be digital, the coaching calls live with me will still be available.
Right.
So people can access it again whenever they want it. So it's not like, oh, I have to wait 4 more months until she does this cohort, her next
Yes.
cohort. You can get it whenever.
Oh, honey, I completely understand, because when I started doing online classes, at first I was always showing up live, and that takes a lot of time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started doing the same. I may do a live class maybe once or twice a year, but for the most part, everything is pre-recorded for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing now too, especially like with you offering this online, that it can reach so many people. So even for those of you listening, if you know someone who's a therapist and you think they would be interested in this, let them know. So I just want to say really quickly before we go on, your
Okay.
website is coreempowerment.org.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another thing I think is so interesting and beautiful about your practice. So you mentioned that there are 7 therapists. Right now, you're the only one practicing Reiki in your space, but you offer quarterly Reiki to the therapist. And I thought that was a really cool
Yes.
thing. Yes.
Yes.
So have you noticed even with them, like how does that, because this is why I ask. A lot of people in any field of supporting others and holding space for others, we often forget to take care of ourselves. So how has that supported the practice, and what has been the response from the therapists getting energy work?
Absolutely. So first off, the therapists love it. They're like on me, like, up here, it's my quarter. Like, put me on the books, put me in. It's my quarter. And they try to line it up, to specific things they have going on. I have one therapist that was getting surgery, so she's lining hers up. She got her one before her surgery. She's lining up her next one after her surgery. So they're on it. And the beauty of offering free quarterly Reiki to my staff is it allows them to engage in some self-care. We are doing hard work.
Right.
The things that we hear and the energy we encounter on a daily basis, it's only right
Yeah.
that they engage in their own self-care as well. And why not have it right there in the office? And then also, so they are able to share that with their clients. I mean, we have Reiki flyers and things in the waiting area, and I would really feel some type of way if a client came back and say, hey, I saw this Reiki flyer in the waiting area, what's Reiki? And the therapist goes, I don't know, and it's like, well,
Right.
what the heck? Well, shoot, if you don't know, then put that flyer down. I won't be going
Right.
to one of those, right? So the therapists are able to really share with their clients their experience with Reiki, and because they have an understanding of Reiki, and they're coming to their quarterly Reiki sessions, they're more connected and in tune with their clients as well. So that helps them to, of course, be better therapists. When you're free of stress and when you're more grounded and connected, you're able to be more present for your clients as well. So it's a win-win for the client and for the therapist, and just for the morale in the office and
Yeah.
all.
No,
Mhm.
I think it's such a beautiful and important thing. And I'm so glad that you highlight that, because, even with people who do Reiki as their full-time work, again, a lot of them don't make time to go get worked on themselves, or
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes we do a lot of self-work but don't recognize the benefit of just allowing ourselves to be worked on so we can lay there and not think about it. So I mean, listen,
Yes. Yes.
those therapists in your space are really lucky.
Yes, and
That
they
is
do
such
not play. They're like,
that
it's my quarter. Where's my appointment? And I'm like, come on, come on.
well, but this is the beautiful thing, and I love how um this really evolves with us, right? Because you started out in
Yes.
talk therapy, you added in the energy work. Now you've created this system designed for therapists, and you're supporting the therapist in your space. But you've also now hold space for yoga. You create crystal jewelry. Like, could you
Yes.
talk to us a
Yes.
little bit of like, where did the yoga come in, and how is that incorporated in this space?
Sure, sure. So honestly, the yoga came in originally from clients asking.
Mm,
There aren't a lot of alternative anything in the part of Maryland that we're in. We're in PG County. We're in the Suitland area. I started off in Clinton, and our office moved to Suitland, and there really it's not a lot going
Yeah.
on in that space. So clients were asking.
Uh-huh.
Once I kicked it off with Reiki, they're like, okay, what else you got? You gonna do some of this? You gonna do some of that? So we started incorporating yoga. So we have a yoga studio at our office. We have some regularly scheduled yoga sessions, sessions going on, and then we started doing like monthly yoga events, like yoga inspired events. We did a yoga and yoni event. So we're trying to do like every month a cool yoga inspired something. And I'm also now in training to be a yoga teacher. So once my training is over, we'll be having a lot more yoga going on in the studio.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Now, I didn't know, and I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but now I have to ask you this since you mentioned
Okay.
it, because I also did yoga teacher training years ago.
Yes.
And what I didn't expect is what cracks open in the process of yoga teacher training. So
Mhm.
I'm curious too, like with you having now these other two methods of healing practices under your belt, what are you recognizing about yoga, and how is that also supporting you?
So I have just completed, so it's a 9-month training. I'm only a month 2. And
Mhm.
already in the first 2 months, opening up that manual that my trainer created, I'm like, all of this is so related to Reiki. I'm like,
Yes.
Reiki, prana. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing. And just the different asanas, the different yoga poses, how they're connected to the different chakra areas, how the twisting poses really get into your sacral. And I'm just
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, like this is all connected. When I tell you I am so hyped, I cannot wait to be done with this yoga teacher training so I can really get into the office and really start connecting it all, therapy,
Yes.
Reiki, yoga, because it's all connected.
Yes.
It's like they're saying the same thing, they're just a different language, but they're saying the same words. Like it's all connected. So I am so excited.
Yes, ma'am. No, and that's so funny you say, because I tell people all the time, because I've had a few people ask me like why I study so many different things. And I
Mm-hmm.
told them, like, one, it's fascinating that they all point back to us, but you
Absolutely.
have this opportunity to understand us and our functionality from these
Mm-hmm.
different lenses, right? But that's what happened. I was practicing Reiki, and in my meditation, I kept hearing um something about the breath. I don't remember what it was now, but it was like something was telling me I needed to understand more about the breath. And so then one day I'm in meditation and I get this message of take yoga teacher training. I'm like, what? But I did, and I was blown away by exactly what you're saying, how it was
Mhm.
like, wow. And it really did support my Reiki practice and vice versa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you have a full blown wellness center
Yes.
going on over there.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I have to tell you, I told you my family, a lot of my family lives in the area where you are. And so I know firsthand that there aren't a lot of offerings like what you're doing. So
Mhm.
it is so beautiful to see that you're doing this, and I know it's going to spread like wildfire, and I'm glad to see it, hearing about it and seeing it in our community too, because that was something here in Southern California I didn't see a lot of. So even that is so inspiring, and I'm so thankful
Yes.
there are people like you out here doing the work and trusting in the
Mhm.
expansion and
Mhm.
figuring out how to do it in a different way. Honey,
Absolutely.
what are you growing into?
I don't, to be honest, I did not foresee any of this.
Yep,
This is beyond anything I could have imagined. I'm an introvert. I always said when
me
I
too.
quit my job and open my practice, it's just gonna be me. I don't want to work with nobody. I just want to be in the office by myself. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Yep.
No. So I never imagined that I would have a practice with 7 therapists and doing coaching and training and I'm just following it. Like
Yes.
I'm just going with this thing. Like this is not at all what I saw for myself. So with having the yoga, And doing the Reiki, a lot of times clients will ask after Reiki, like, okay, what chakra area showed up today? And they want to know feedback, right? Then like, okay, well, what do I have to do to get that area better? And they want to have like a whole little consultation afterwards. So I noticed that my clients wanted something tangible.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want a little note card with some jotted down notes. You need to eat more of this and do less of that. They wanted something to take with them. So I said, okay, let me create something for them. So I started making crystal bracelets that are associated with each chakra area. Um, so they're handmade by me. A lot of people ask, like, do you just buy them? I'm like, no, I buy the stones in bulk, and I literally sit with my sage going and my India RE playing, and I string them with good intention, and I
Yes.
sage them, and I infuse them with Reiki. All of the bracelets get to have their own little mini Reiki session where I really get to set the intention for bracelets for whomever they are meant for. And it takes time. And I was speaking with one of my coaches, and they recommend, like, why don't you just buy them already made? Like, that's too much time. And I'm like, no, it's the passion behind it. Like, I
Right.
don't want to buy them already strung, and no, I want to set the mood for these bracelets. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
a big deal for me. So now my clients are able to have a bracelet that is customized for their particular chakra area that they feel like they need to strengthen.
That is such a beautiful thing. Listen, my face is going to hurt by the end of this interview. I just realized, like, I've been constantly just smiling, and really my cheeks are starting to hurt. But it's so beautiful. And what you said, I have to point out as well, because it's something I said in the beginning. I felt like I was following breadcrumbs. That was the way I said it. I was also very introverted. If you
Mm-hmm.
told me I was going to podcast, I would have thought you were crazy, because I just like to be in my own little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't tell you how many people have come on the podcast and echoed that same thing. I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I can't believe the way I was guided and led once I
Yes.
started this practice. So, just with you saying that too, I have to ask, what is that process like for you? Do you just trust how you're inspired? Are you ever nervous about it? Or are you just like, take the leap?
A little bit of both. I would be not telling the truth if I said I'm not nervous.
Right.
Because that's a natural feeling, right? We all get a little anxious. We all get a little worried, but I just trust it. A lot of the things that come to me, like how you mentioned earlier, are in meditation.
Right.
So a lot of people think, oh, I'm meditating. I'm not supposed to think. Like, stop thinking, stop thinking. And I'm always like, no, just breathe. Like, if a thought comes, accept it, let it go. So a lot of the ideas and different things come to me during meditation. So if
Mm-hmm.
something comes to me during my time of meditation, then I know that's God talking to me.
Yeah.
That's my ancestors talking to me. That's my spirit guides speaking to me in that moment, because I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm running. If they're trying to send me signals and talk to me, they're not going to get to me because I'm booked and busy. I got a lot going on. So when
Right.
I'm in that time of meditation, in my silence, they're able to speak to me.
Yes.
And that's when I'm open enough to listen and hear. So if something comes to me during meditation, I have to follow it. If not,
Yes.
I'm gonna miss it. And if I miss the blessing, because I feel like a lot of my blessings are to bless others. So if I'm not listening, if I'm not following through, not only do I miss out, but somebody else is gonna miss out as well. So when things come to me, yes, I'm like, you want me to do what? Talk to who? Where? Oh no, not me. But I let that go. My dad shared something with me that stuck to me, and he said that fear is a delusion. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no such thing as fear. And that sticks with me. So when I feel myself getting anxious and I feel myself starting to feel fear, I let it go. I'm like, this is fake. Like, there's no such thing as fear. Like, this is not real. What are you afraid of? Let it go. So I take a couple deep breaths and I move on. Talking on this podcast, like, introverted me, like, I don't even like talking on the phone. Like, here I am, like, talking on a podcast. I always tell my clients, y'all the only people I talk to.
Wait, let me tell you something. This is what is so beautiful about what you said, because I always, when people are like, well, if you were so introverted, then how did you get over the fear or the
Mm,
discomfort? And I'm like, because it mattered to me. And I
mm-hmm.
knew I had to do this if I really wanted to share this with other people. I had to,
Absolutely.
like, I had no choice.
Absolutely.
And exactly what you just said is what you just said. Like, I
Mhm.
have to stop to allow myself to be receptive because it matters for the people I serve. And I think
Absolutely.
that's such a beautiful thing. And I often tell people, like, connect to your why, because that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be what drives you to stay consistent in your practice, keep showing up, and starting to trust. Because
Mm.
if it matters to you, you that is going to inspire you to go dare to do things that you never thought were possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, Kierrah, check you out.
I always like meeting other fellow introverts. I know sometimes it can feel like we're so isolated out in the world, but it's always good to meet
Yeah, and
other
then there's
people.
the irony, like we're the ones out here like
I
holding
know,
space,
right?
right?
I know.
So I have to ask you about this too.
Yes.
We talked a lot about your work, but I want to bring it in a little bit to the personal level, because
Mm-hmm.
I loved this, what you shared with me when we spoke before. After you started doing your Reiki training, and you mentioned that you also started practicing on your husband and your baby. So can you
Yes.
share with everyone, what were the experiences of your husband? What was that like for you
Mm-hmm.
working on him, but also what, because I remember you said he would sleep through it, but then
Yes.
also for your baby, how did that support what they were going through?
Absolutely. So my first clients were my husband, my daughter, and my mom, and one of my sisters. So they were like my Reiki guinea pigs, I like to call them. In each of them, well, my daughter is 2 now. So when she was getting her Reiki, when she was a couple months, well, maybe under 1, she couldn't tell me, but I knew. So anyway, so between the 3 of them, my sister, my mom, and my husband, just their report of relaxation,
Mm,
um, whether it was stress they were holding from school or work, or just the toxic environments they may have been in the workplace and things like that, just reporting feeling relaxed,
yeah.
relieved, rejuvenated after their sessions. And because my husband, we lived together, he started just milking me for free Reiki. I'm like, bruh, like, come on now, I need to put you on the books. You're gonna have to start leaving a tip or something. But just coming home from work, and at that time he was working in the jail, so in the jail in the county. So I'm quite sure you can only imagine the
Yeah.
encounters and energy transfers that were going on in that space.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so he just sleeps through them. Like as soon as he lays down, he's out. Like as soon as I hit play on the music and light the sage, he's gone.
Right.
And then for my daughter, excuse me, for my daughter during that time, she was teething and she was not sleeping at all. And it was driving my husband and I crazy. We were up all times of the night just trying to soothe her. And I just, out of curiosity, I was like, let me try this Reiki thing. Let me see. And that's kind of when I had level 1. So I was like still a little skeptical. I was like, let me see if this thing really worked. Right. So I started doing Reiki on her at night. It was a part of our nighttime routine. It was, she was breastfed at that time. So it was have your breastfeeding time, you had your bath, and then like in her chair in her room as I was rocking her, I would just start doing Reiki with her, and really spending a lot of attention around her mouth and her gum and her jaw and her neck area. And after I want to say, after maybe like 2 sessions, she was asleep.
Yeah.
So though she couldn't verbally tell me, I knew that she was no longer feeling discomfort in her mouth. And
Right.
that just again became a part of our routine. She's now in preschool. This is her first time away or around other children. So she's constantly bringing home germs and whatnot. So I find now that that is a part of our routine. She had some little upper respiratory things going on, and part of her nighttime routine, I just start doing Reiki on her. And she's now sleeping better because her nose was running and she couldn't get rest. So I said, okay, let me try this Reiki thing again with her. And my husband can tell you she is sleeping. So Reiki at night for her before bed is like, it's like her moment to just let go. And if you could just see her little body in my arms, she's just like out. She has no idea what's happening, but she's just like laid out. And I just lay her right in the bed afterwards, and she's out for the night.
I mean, so on one hand, I was thinking like, "Ooh, this is going to be exciting for people who have young ones, and especially, like that have trouble sleeping at night." But another thing that just occurred to me while you're saying that is, just like you said, you make time to connect with your ancestors and God and your guides and be receptive. It must be such a beautiful space to just be able to connect with your daughter, especially being
Mm-hmm.
such a busy working mom.
Yes.
Like, how
Yes.
beautiful is that?
Yes. It's our time. It's our moment.
Mm-hmm.
When I have things that I may have to do in the evening and I miss her bedtime routine, I'm really in my feelings because that's our moment.
Right.
And to be able to really feel and connect with her energy is amazing. I remember one time I got like just emotional. She was asleep, but I just got emotional just holding that space and having Reiki with her. It's just amazing to connect with her on that level, right?
Right. Right.
It's a beautiful thing.
And I think that's such a beautiful thing too, like with that experience with your daughter and the space you're able to hold with clients now, is that it does give us that ability to connect on a different level,
Yes.
or to recognize how we are connected in a way that we normally don't pay attention to.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think another thing with that, because you start to recognize how connected we are, it starts to click how much we impact each other, how much we influence each other, which then is going to make you feel more responsible.
Mhm.
And just like you said with your clients, they become more aware of their environments, their responses, all of these
Mhm.
things. So
Mhm.
let me tell you, Kierrah, I am so thankful that you
Absolutely.
are
And
out here doing this work.
yes, and the good thing about continuing the Reiki training to get to the advanced level or master level is the ability to do distance Reiki.
Right.
So with my sister who is in college, who whenever she comes home for break, she wants the hands on. She's like, "Can I get a Reiki session?" But with her being in college, I'm able to do distance Reiki with her. For my
Right.
mom, who had surgery, who at the moment can't lie down on the table,
Mhm.
so being able to do distance Reiki and hold space for her still.
Right.
And then have my dad is in Florida and I have family other places. So again, to be able to do that. And then for clients, because some of our clients don't physically come into the office, right?
Okay.
Some of our clients are virtual. And so they don't miss out on Reiki either. They can do the same thing. They can have a distance Reiki session before the start of the session and then pop online and have a virtual, or vice versa, or the every other week. So everybody can get it, right? So
Wait,
everybody
so
can get
I'm
Reiki.
so glad you said that. So even
Yeah.
for people who are interested in talk therapy, they don't have to be in your area. You can have sessions with you no matter which type.
So that's when the insurance comes into play, right? So we're
Okay.
in Maryland. So in order to do that, yes, you would have to be in the area if you're utilizing like your medical insurance.
Right.
But if you're not, then we do have the ability for you to do coaching or self-pay and things like that, to be able to do that. Yes. We are probably and not a lot of therapy practices accept insurance,
Mm-hmm.
but we are a practice. We accept pretty much all of the major insurance companies in our area. And again, that's so we can meet the need. We
Right.
are in an area where clients can't afford to pay
Right.
out of pocket for therapy. It's like, I work this job, they taking this money out my check for my insurance. If I'm coming to somebody, I need to use my benefits. And
Right.
I'm with you on that. Um, so yeah, so we could do it both ways. If you're local, if you're in Maryland, you want to utilize your insurance to come in, we can absolutely accommodate that. If you're not in the area and you want to do virtual sessions, we can accommodate that as well.
That is so beautiful. Okay. So
Mhm.
I'm sure people are right now like, wait a minute, where do I go to check out the work that she's doing? So I just want to say again, the website is coreempowerment.org. And of
Yes.
course, I'm going to put the link to connect with you down in the show description. But before we go, I just want to check, are there any other ways that people connect with you, like on social media? And if so, what's your
Yes.
handle?
So we are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and it's Core Empower and then the number 1. So Core Empower and then the number 1.
Okay, perfect. So I'll put that in the show description too. So
Yes,
Kierrah, I have to thank you so much for coming and sharing all of
absolutely.
this,
Thank you.
all of it. Honey, this is something. I mean, it really is. It's I think back to when I started energy work. I mean, I didn't even, there was no one really even talking about this. So
Mhm.
again, to see people like you not only doing the work, but bringing it into spaces that can change the face of how we understand wellness.
Yes.
Such a
Yes.
beautiful thing. So go ahead after the podcast, you go to coreempowerment.org, check out
Yes.
Kierrah and her work. For those of you who are therapists, don't forget she has the virtual training for you as well. So thank you
That
so
one is
much.
coming.
Oh, yes. Well, no, the
Mhm.
end of the month, you'll be doing the live one, though.
Yep, the end of the month we'll be doing the live one, and that'll be the last live one. So after that, everything will be virtual. Yep.
Yes. So
Mm.
check her out. Hurry up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, love.
Thank you.